What's up guys, welcome to part 3 of the Burpsuite video where we go over all of the different features of Burpsuite. Today we're going to be talking about the Intruder and the Repeater tab. Per usual, we're going to be using FlowGPT to demonstrate how all of this works, so let's just go ahead and get straight into it. If you've watched my past videos and you already know how to set up your Burpsuite environment, you of course installed Community Edition, and then you go into the Proxy tab and start intercepting requests. And then of course up here we turn on our proxy in our browser, and then any request that gets sent through here should pop up in Burpsuite. So as you can see, here are all of the requests that are going through. So let's go ahead and go to the Intruder tab and check out and talk about what this is all about. So the Intruder is kind of dumbed down or kind of simplified because it's of course Community Edition, although it's kind of a brute forcing area of Burpsuite. Say for example, if I wanted to brute force some kind of value that gets sent to a web page, then we could do that with Burpsuite. So for example, let's go over here to proxy and find a request such as event. All you have to do is right click on that and then send that to the Intruder, and as you can see, it'll pop up over here. Now whenever you go into this page, you're going to see there's a lot of options, and I'm going to be real with you, not a lot of them are going to be useful because a lot of the brute forcing is slowed down because it's in Community Edition. If you pay and get professional or whatever, you will of course get the real version, but the Community Edition slows it down and you're better off using another tool to brute force like Hydra or some other automation tool. So to go over a few of the options here, you have an attack type. A sniper just uses a single set of payloads, and you can read through all the rest of them here. I'm not going to read them out. There's just different types of attacks that you can send to the web interface. Now let's look at the actual main load of the payload position. So payload position is where the position of your payload is going to start and end. So for example, in this request, we're sending a bunch of data to the server, right? Say we wanted to brute force this to try and see if we can get something from it. What we would then do in that case is just add one of these and then add another. So that's where our payload is going to go. Or if you wanted to try to change something like this where it says production, you could add these and have a bunch of different payloads that say production, debug, or all these other different things that could possibly lead to a different outcome. So to think about all this page is really just setting where you want your payload to be. Now if we actually want to set a payload, we can go over here to payloads, and then we can either import or paste or just make our own payloads. As you can see, there are plenty of different payload types. Now, none of these I'm going to go over today just because I don't have time, and plus these can be really time consuming. But down here you can either paste a load. As you can see, I just pasted an IP that I was just working with, or you can load a file up. This will give you a file of different things. Like if I load this test.py, as you can see, import training view public, that's just a random file that I have. A more reasonable payload would probably be a .text file, something of the sort that's from seclist, or something that, from your wordless directory in Linux. It just really depends on what you're attacking. So what this means is you can set, of course, custom or pre-made or any kind of payload that you want, really. It gives you a lot of options. You can also add payload processing. So what this does is it basically processes different tasks on each payload before it's used or before it's sent to the server. And of course down here you can choose to URL encode any special characters. Over here in resource pool, you're not really going to need to touch this. If you mess with it too much, you might either DDoS the site, or you might just mess something up that you're not. Just don't mess with this page unless you know what you're doing. The default resource pool is going to be just fine for just about anyone doing anything. I mean, it's not really going to matter. I would personally recommend you not even use Burpsuite for your brute forcing, so that's just my opinion though. But just leave the resource pool as is. If you want to look more into it, please ask me in my Discord or something. I can totally teach you all about it. Overall, the resource pool is just something you're not really going to need to know or need to mess with. If you do have any questions, or if you do want to learn more, you can join my Discord and of course ask me or ask others. I'm sure we are totally willing to give you an answer. If we go over to settings, these again, you don't really need to mess with these. All of them are pretty much fine default. You can either disallow or allow redirections, or in scope only, all kinds of stuff like that. Bunch of cool options here. You can also extract different things from the responses. So if you have anything that you know you might want to get out, you can grep that. But overall, that's all you're really gonna need to know for the intruder. Like I said, overall, you I've never used the intruder in a real life scenario. I've either used other brute forcing tools or just not used this at all. I've never had a use for it, so I don't think anyone else will either. Let's go ahead and check out the repeater tab. This tab, super cool. I actually use this one a lot, very useful. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see, we have the same screen that we had on the intruder tab before we sent any requests to it. So let's go ahead and take this, send it to repeater, and as you can see, we have it popped up in the repeater tab. So we have two different sides here. We have the request and the response. The response is currently blank because we haven't sent the request yet. So just like how you can capture and intercept these requests, either forward them or drop them, you can also send them to the repeater to repeat them. So say for example, if I wanted to do some testing with this event ID, if I changed around this event ID to something different, we might get a different response. As you can see, invalid event envelope. But if I just do a quick little Control C over here, and then send it, as you can see, we get an ID. See, for example, we can search for categories, as you can see over here on the right hand side. This is URL encoded over here, by the way. And whenever we decode it, we have JSON, which is null, which means we're not searching for anything just yet. But I believe if we add Q and then a search query, then we can search for stuff. But if we go ahead and send this, we get default information back. So these are the defaults whenever the website loads. Of course, we could edit this and edit all this cool stuff up in here, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just here to show you how the repeater works. Now up here in the top right, you can change the target, which I doubt you'll need to do if you're testing just a single website. Like I don't think it's gonna matter, although it is an option if you want to. If we look up here in the top left, we have the settings. These are just a bunch of different settings that you can enable or disable to make your experience a little bit better. Here, as you can see, if it says update content links and that's checked, it automatically updates the content length of the request that you send. So if you edit into the content and the content length is different, the server's going to be like, hey, what's this about, right? So this will automatically update the content link of whatever request that you're sending. And of course, there are plenty of other options. You can follow redirections or process cookies in redirections. I mean, there's plenty of stuff you can do here. You can look into them all yourself. Like I said, if you have any questions, you can ask me in my Discord. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory though. These cancel and forward and back buttons are both or they're all handling redirection. So if you get redirected, you can either cancel that redirection, go back, or follow that redirection. I currently don't have anything on hand to test that with, although it's pretty self-explanatory and I'm sure you guys can understand it. Along with all that, you can also format it in different ways. You can show all the new lines, or you can, of course, you can right click or get all the options just like this. Burpsuite is pretty self-explanatory. Like the repeater tab is super simple. It also has the inspector over here with all of the different request parameters. Overall, that is the repeater tab. You can repeat requests and send them to the server for testing. It's pretty cool. I actually use this tab probably the most, so I highly recommend you get some practice in, and I hope you guys learned something from this Burpsuite tutorial. The next one will hopefully be out sooner than this one. Thank you all for stopping by and watching this video to learn more about Burpsuite, and I will see you guys in the next part.